You've been there. She walks into the room. Same face, same voice, same smile. But something's different. Something invisible. Her energy's off. Her rhythm is unfamiliar. And suddenly, the woman you thought you knew feels like a stranger wearing her skin. No text exposed her. No conversation gave it away. But your gut is ringing like a siren. And here's what most men do at that moment. They shut that instinct down. They call themselves paranoid. They make excuses for her change in tone. They blame stress, work, hormones, anything but the truth. They gaslight themselves into comfort, because the truth, it cuts too deep. But a man who's walking the Stoic path doesn't run from discomfort. He listens to it. He studies it. He lets reality speak, even when it whispers through unease. Here's the hard truth most men don't want to hear. When a woman has recently been intimate with another man, she doesn't need to tell you. Because her body already has. Her presence already has. And if you're tuned in, you'll feel it. Not because you're insecure, but because human energy leaves footprints. And intimacy, especially new intimacy, shifts a woman's internal world in ways she can't fully mask. She doesn't even realize the shift. But you do. You feel it in the way her eyes don't linger, in the fake sweetness of her smile, in the way her voice tries too hard to sound the same. This isn't about catching anyone. It's not about obsession or control. It's about clarity. It's about reading the world as it is, not as you wish it to be. Because if you're a man who values truth over comfort, you'll learn to trust your perception. You'll see that when her soul has wandered, her silence doesn't hide it. Her energy reveals it. In this video, we'll explore the subtle but undeniable signs that a woman has recently been intimate with someone else, and how a Stoic man recognizes these shifts, without fear, without anger, and without needing her to say a single word. Let's begin. The Stoic perspective. Truth doesn't come from words. Modern men have been trained to chase clarity through conversation, to demand answers, to force confessions, to believe that if she hasn't said anything, then nothing has happened. But Stoicism teaches the opposite. That truth is never owed to you in words, it's observed through patterns, through energy, through behavior. A Stoic doesn't cling to verbal validation. He watches, he discerns, and he lets reality, not reassurance, be the source of his clarity. Because here's what most men don't understand. Words can lie, behavior doesn't. She can tell you everything's fine while pulling away. She can say she loves you while giving her soul to someone else. She can smile and still leak guilt in every breath she takes. The Stoic man doesn't get trapped in emotional theater. He doesn't chase the performance. He studies the script. Beneath the script, the micro-expressions, the hesitations, the subtle shifts that most miss because they're too busy needing to feel safe. You don't need to be a detective. You don't need to interrogate. You need to observe with detachment. Not coldness, but composure. Not suspicion, but stillness. The moment you need her to confirm your reality, you've already given away your power. You've handed over your frame in exchange for emotional mercy. And that's not what a Stoic does. A Stoic stands in the fire of uncertainty and lets it forge him. He sees without needing permission. He senses without demanding proof. Because the truth always arrives, not in the noise, but in the silence that follows. And if you train your eyes to see, if you discipline your mind to not flinch at discomfort, you'll begin to recognize when something inside her has shifted. You'll hear it in the quiet. You'll feel it in her distance. You'll see it in her rhythm. This is not paranoia. This is perception sharpened by stillness, by self-control, by the refusal to betray your own intuition, just to avoid pain. In the next section, we'll explore what these shifts actually look like. Not theories, not guesses, Real signs, subtle but powerful, that reveal more than any confession ever could. Let's continue. 1. She's carrying a secret she doesn't know she's leaking. She sits across from you, smiling. The same woman, same tone, same gestures. But underneath the familiar, something foreign has arrived. You feel it in the space between her words, in the pauses that linger just a little too long, in the way she avoids stillness, as if afraid you'll see too much if she stops moving. And it's not what she says, it's what she's trying not to say. Most men don't notice this shift. They're too eager to believe everything is fine. They look at her surface and ignore the current underneath. But you've trained your perception. You've slowed yourself down. You've learned to observe, not react. And what you're seeing now is a woman carrying something, not in her hands, but in her energy. Intimacy, for many women, isn't just physical. It's energetic. It's psychological. It alters her internal chemistry, whether she wants it to or not. And when that happens with someone new, especially someone she desired, the imprint bleeds through. She may still care about you. She may still laugh, touch your arm, or play her usual roles. But it feels like she's acting from memory, not presence. Her smile is too sweet, her tone a little too controlled, her affection choreographed, not organic. This is the guilt she doesn't know she's leaking, the inner conflict she hasn't processed, spilling into the way she breathes around you. Sometimes it shows up as overcompensation. She's suddenly more affectionate, more attentive, more available. Other times, it's withdrawal. She answers slower, touches her phone more, keeps her distance while pretending nothing changed. She may tell herself it's nothing. She may not even be aware of it. But her body knows. Her nervous system knows. Her spirit, it's unsettled. And no matter how polished her exterior becomes, that shift will always leave a residue. A Stoic man doesn't panic at this. He doesn't interrogate or spiral. He simply sees. Because when you've taken the time to truly understand a woman, not just her words, but her rhythm, her emotional texture, you'll notice even the most delicate distortion. You'll catch the micro glance toward her phone, the over-explained stories, the laugh that doesn't match her eyes, the tension in her shoulders when the room falls silent. You won't need to ask her anything, because she's already answering, in every breath she takes. This isn't about blaming her. It's not about proving she's wrong. It's about recognizing when you are no longer standing in the same place together. Because when a woman has crossed into someone else's world, she brings fragments of that world back with her, whether she realizes it or not. And if you're grounded, still unshaken, you'll see those fragments. You'll feel them floating in the room like invisible threads. She might think she's hiding it. But the truth is, people don't hide well. They leak. Their posture leaks. Their pace leaks. Their energy becomes fractured, like static beneath a beautiful song. The undisciplined man tries to fix it. The insecure man tries to force clarity. But the Stoic, he remains still. And from that stillness, he sees everything. She's carrying something. You don't need her to name it, because you've already read the pages between the lines. And the deeper you see, the less you need to be told. 2. Her relationship with you quietly shifts. You remember how she used to talk to you, the way she'd text you without needing a reason, how she'd smile, not just with her mouth but with her eyes, how her gaze would naturally find you in a room, without effort, without intention. All of that begins to dim, not suddenly, not dramatically, but gradually, like a flame that's running out of oxygen. Texts start arriving later, shorter, colder. No more playful exclamation points, missed calls, vague excuses. I was tired. I've been busy. I forgot. And if you're a man without inner grounding, you'll start blaming yourself. You'll wonder what you did wrong. You'll try harder, text more, offer more. But the more you give, the more you feel like you're chasing something that's already slipped away. Because something has changed. Maybe she didn't betray you. Maybe you're not even officially together. But when a woman has been physically intimate with another man, especially someone who stirs her emotions, you'll feel that change. Not in her words, but in the frequency between you. She may become distant, less expressive, detached, present in body, but somewhere else in spirit. Or she does the opposite. Suddenly she's too sweet, overly affectionate, sends you cute messages she never used to, brings up old memories, like she's trying to revive a connection that she knows has quietly died. This is overcompensation, an unconscious effort to patch over the emotional dissonance. She won't admit it. She may not even be fully aware of it. But the space between you has changed. And if you've trained your mind to read beyond the surface, you'll notice. Not to accuse, not to punish, but to simply recognize. She's no longer standing in the same place with you. Women don't hide emotion as well as they think. They hide behind routines. They play the same roles. But something always slips through. The way she cancels plans last minute, the odd excuses, the unexplained irritability, the sudden arguments over nothing, not because she's angry with you, but because she's wrestling with guilt she doesn't know how to process. And you become the outlet for what she cannot name. So, what do? You don't shout. You don't collapse. You don't beg, plead, or lower your worth to hold on to someone who's already stepped back emotionally. You simply stay still. No reaction, no chasing, no sacrifice of self-respect just to maintain an illusion of connection. This is not the time to fall apart. It is not the time to prove anything. It is the moment to register the signal, recalibrate your expectations, and withdraw with the calm resolve of a warrior. Because truth doesn't need to be chased. It only asks that you be still enough and strong enough not to betray yourself when it shows up. 3. Her appearance and grooming suddenly shift. You've seen her look beautiful before, but this feels different. It's not the same kind of effort, not the same routine. Something about her appearance now carries a subtle edge, a quiet electricity that wasn't there before. Maybe it's a new fragrance that lingers a little longer than usual, a bolder lipstick, a change in hairstyle, or something simpler, like the sudden glow on her skin. To most men, these are small, forgettable details, but a man who observes, not guesses, understands what they really mean. When a woman has recently been intimate with someone else, especially someone new or deeply desired, she often carries a ripple effect, and that ripple touches everything, including how she presents herself. It's not always intentional. In fact, most of the time, she doesn't even know she's doing it. But intimacy awakens something inside her. A feminine energy, a validation, a charge. And that energy finds its way into how she dresses, how she moves, how she shows up in the world. Sometimes she puts more effort into her look than ever before. Fresh nails, new outfits, accessories that didn't belong to her rhythm before. And then, there are moments when she swings the other way. No makeup. Hair pulled back casually. Simple, soft clothing that signals not performance, but contentment. Because once she's been desired, once she's been seen and touched by someone new, she doesn't feel the same urgency to seek attention. At least not from you. Her body has already been validated. And now, her presentation is no longer for the man in front of her. It's echoing the man, still on her mind. You may even notice she's wearing something that isn't hers, a hoodie that doesn't match her style, a bracelet she didn't buy, or the faint scent of cologne that she brushes off as a new perfume. These aren't coincidences. They're imprints. She may laugh it off. She may shrug and say, I just felt like dressing up, or I found this in my closet. But your gut knows better, because when you know her baseline, when you've paid attention to her natural patterns, you can feel the shift. And a Stoic man doesn't need to ask. He doesn't accuse. He doesn't dig. He simply reads the signs, calmly, clearly, and without drama. Because appearance, for many women, is not just aesthetic. It's emotional expression. She's not announcing what happened. She's leaking it, quietly, unconsciously. And if you're still enough to notice, you'll see that she's no longer dressing for the world. She's dressing in the residue of another man's presence. 4. She starts to know things she shouldn't know. You're having a casual conversation, nothing intense, nothing serious. And then, out of nowhere, she mentions a place you've never taken her, a band she's never listened to, a joke you know didn't come from you. And just like that, the thread unravels. It's subtle, but unmistakable. When a woman has been intimate with another man, especially one who made an impression on her, she begins to absorb pieces of his world. And whether she knows it or not, those pieces begin to spill out, in words, in references, in small behavioral shifts that feel off to anyone who's paying attention. You might hear her mention a restaurant she's always wanted to try. Except, she never mentioned it before. Or she brings up a quote, a phrase, a slang term that doesn't sound like her voice. Maybe her music taste changes. She starts waking up earlier. She drinks a different kind of coffee. Tiny things, insignificant to the distracted eye, but glaring to the man who knows her baseline. This isn't random. This isn't her exploring new things. It's transference. It's residue. It's the emotional and psychological imprint of having been close to another man. Because when a woman connects, especially physically, she often opens the gates to a deeper bond. And part of that bond involves mirroring, not out of intention, not out of deceit, but out of biology. Humans are social creatures. We mimic those we connect with. And the more intimate the connection, the stronger the subconscious mirroring becomes. Suddenly, her text tone changes. She adds new emojis you've never seen from her before. The pacing of her messages shifts. Less familiar, less her. These changes don't come with explanations. They're not part of some big reveal. They simply appear, like new software running silently in the background. And if you confront her, she'll likely deflect. Not because she's hiding something malicious, but because she doesn't realize she's been leaking clues. But a man who sees through behavior, not words, doesn't need confirmation. He just watches, listens, connects the patterns. Because this isn't about control. It's about clarity. It's not about being territorial. It's about being aware of what's changed. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. The new habits, the borrowed language, the mismatched references, they're not yours. They never were. They belong to someone else. And now, they're quietly living inside her. A Stoic man doesn't chase answers. He doesn't interrogate. He observes with stillness and acts with resolve. Because when you recognize that a woman is reflecting a world you're no longer part of, you don't fight to reclaim her attention. You reclaim your own. 5. She becomes protective of her phone. It starts small. She places her phone face down. She keeps it within reach, even in moments that never used to matter. She brings it to the bathroom, to the kitchen, to the hallway. It never leaves her side. You notice it because you've seen the opposite before. There was a time when she'd leave it out, unlocked, screen up, not as a sign of trust, but because she had nothing to hide. Now, that openness is gone. Most men don't question it. They don't want to seem paranoid. They tell themselves it's normal. Everyone's private with their phone these days. But deep down, something doesn't sit right, and it shouldn't. Because when a woman has recently been intimate with someone else, especially if the connection is fresh, secretive, or emotionally charged. Her relationship with her phone changes. It becomes her shield, her vault, her lifeline to a world she doesn't want you to access. She starts guarding it the way someone guards a truth they're not ready to admit. Not through lies, but through micro-defensiveness, the kind you only notice if you're still enough to feel the tension. She'll angle the screen away from you. She'll turn off previews. She'll silence notifications that used to ping freely in front of you. And if you get too close, she gets a little uneasy. Not visibly, just enough for your intuition to whisper, "That's new." Here's what a Stoic man knows. It's not about the phone. It's about the shift in behavior around it. You're not asking to check it. You're not looking for evidence. You're simply watching how she treats access. And when access becomes fear, you don't need to dig further. You already have your answer. Because secrecy never hides well. It wraps itself in patterns. And patterns, to the emotionally disciplined eye, are louder than any confession. So you don't confront. You don't accuse. You simply withdraw your trust, not as punishment, but as protection of your own peace. The man who sees clearly never needs to search. He watches, he notes, and when the energy no longer aligns with openness, he steps back, not in anger, but in unshakable self-respect. The Stoic man's response. No arguments, no interrogations, no emotional breakdowns disguised as just wanting the truth. A Stoic man doesn't need anyone to confess anything, because he doesn't live by words. He lives by the reality that behavior reveals. When the signs have shown themselves, the avoidant gaze, the sudden sweetness, the unfamiliar perfume, the quiet shift in rhythm, he doesn't look away. He doesn't judge. He simply registers. Because what weakens most men isn't the truth. It's their fear of seeing it. And the Stoic, the man who has trained himself to stay calm amid chaos, doesn't flinch at discomfort. He walks straight into it, eyes open, not ruled by emotion, not driven by ego, because he understands. Emotional reactivity turns him into a victim, but still awareness keeps him in control. He doesn't start calling endlessly, doesn't send long emotional texts demanding clarity, doesn't issue ultimatums. Because the more he chases, the more he proves one thing. He's not grounded in himself. And a man who can't govern himself will never govern his reality. So what's the right response? Withdraw your energy, recenter your presence, remain calm, but stop investing in a bond that's already breaking. Not silence to manipulate, not distance to punish, but space to protect your inner integrity. Sometimes the strongest move a man can make is to say nothing. Not because he's weak, but because he no longer needs answers. The truth already spoke, through her eyes, through her voice, through the way she gripped her phone like a gate that must be guarded. He doesn't explode. He doesn't hate. He simply understands that there's nothing left to hold on to. A man who lives by his values doesn't beg to stay in places where honesty has left the room. So he pulls back, quietly, without theatrics, without playing the victim. Just a calm, steady retreat, deep enough to reclaim what almost slipped away, his self-respect. You've seen enough, not just one detail, but a sequence of quiet, undeniable shifts. She didn't need to confess anything, because her energy already did. The warmth faded. Her tone changed. Her eyes no longer held the same softness. A new scent. And the phone, always close, always guarded. An untrained man would panic, demand answers, cling harder. But the Stoic man doesn't. He doesn't beg. He doesn't explode. He simply sees and stays silent, because he no longer needs anyone to confirm what his intuition has already made clear. This is the line between strength and desperation. One accepts reality. The other tries to bend it out of fear. A grounded man does not fear losing anyone. He only fears losing himself in the process of trying to hold on. He doesn't argue. He doesn't chase. He simply pulls back, not out of bitterness, but out of self-respect. Because sometimes, the most powerful move a man can make is to walk away without a word. Not because he's cold, but because he's seen enough to know. Truth doesn't need to be explained, only accepted. If you're in that space, full of doubt, confusion, and silent questions, stop chasing what's already shifting. Don't fight for attention that no longer belongs to you. Stand firm in what remains yours, your center, your clarity, your power. Choose yourself. And if what you seek is discipline, inner strength, and the mindset to stay steady through emotional storms, walk with us. Subscribe to the Unshakable Stoic Path, where men stop living by emotion and start living by principle. This isn't the end, it's only the beginning.